Yeah, but he wants it in cash.
Can he give you like anything that you purchase it from him?
No, I don't. You don't need that. Bro, what is it? I'm only asking for 3. What is this? It's my money. I'm allowed to withdraw from my own bank account.
Yeah, so
You said that what's the maximum limit you can give a withdrawal to a customer? It's $3,000 on the date. You've already mentioned that multiple times.
Yeah, not today.
Why not today?
Canada is hurtling towards a cashless society sponsored by the World Economic Forum with a bankster in charge. You know that this is coming down the pipe. Just take a look at this clip.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
I've long been saying on this channel about the risks of going into a cashless society and why this is inevitable to happen. And believe it or not, it is happening in Canada. You're starting to see signs of it. So the government has come in and they are banning transactions over $10,000 in cash, and they are citing money laundering as the reason why they're clamping down on this. But as we get into this, it will become clear that it's not about money laundering and it's all about the oligarchy in Canada. I noticed about a year ago that banks in the UK were starting to shut down, starting to take out ATMs, and just depositing and withdrawing cash was becoming a hassle. And quite frankly, a lot of businesses were being encouraged to not accept cash. So basically, if you had cash, it was very, very difficult to get rid of it. And that is becoming the case in Canada as well, as cash use is declining. I know it's ridiculous because when you look at small transactions especially, there's no fees when somebody pays with cash. But if somebody pays on a card, there's a card processing fee. And then basically there's all these fees and charges in between, and they're not actually getting that $5 for that cup of coffee. Whereas if you pay in cash, they're getting that $5. Well, as you go up in terms of transaction size, the fees add up even more, and it becomes blatantly obvious why the Canada would want to go into a cashless society. It's because it benefits the banks, who are the primary payment processors in Canada. Guess what? If all cash is suddenly banned or got rid of, that means every transaction that is performed in the economy is being dinged for fees by these banks, and these would be substantial increases on their bottom line that they can get by lobbying the government. And you know, they can use the disguise of, oh, it's money laundering, but we know for a fact money laundering is mostly going through real estate. Just take a look at what the is happening in BC, and people aren't paying cash for properties. And it's funny how they start to clamp down on all this shit now, when it's become a thing of the past now, where people were going to casinos with duffel bags full of cash. They are using different methods to do it electronically now instead of using cash, and now the government suddenly comes in and says, oh, we're going to clamp down on cash. So it's really interesting what is happening, and obviously the more dystopian view on what could be going on here, which is obvious and it's been discussed at the World Economic Forum as well, is social credit scores, climate scores, those type of things.
Individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
And also freezing people's bank accounts, freezing transactions, becomes very easy to debank somebody and just completely cut them off from the financial system if there is no cash and cash is banned.
If your truck is being used in these protests, your corporate accounts will be frozen. The insurance on your vehicle will be suspended. The consequences are real, and they will bite.
I was quite shocked a month ago when I went to the bank to deposit some cash in the UK, and they said to me, how much cash are you depositing? Because you have a limit. And I hadn't even heard that they had imposed these limits. I'd heard that certain banks were doing it in the UK, and I talked about that on my previous video last year. So cash is a constraint, and it's obvious why banks would want to get rid of it. And here in the UK, that is happening at an unbelievable pace. Numerous banks in the UK have actually said that they're going to be limiting cash withdrawals. So you can only withdraw up to £12,000 a year, which is around 20,000 Canadian dollars. And that's in an entire year. So think about it if you need to purchase a car. But my bank was doing it as well. They were imposing limits on the amount of cash that you could deposit. Now, I was only depositing a small amount, so it didn't really matter. But you can look at the UK to see what type of future is coming in Canada as well. Because as I said last year, you know, this cashless society thing is coming. And I was right. You're already seeing the government trying to clamp down on it. In the UK, it was actually the banks themselves. They just went at it on their own. And I want to also take you to this clip here because I find this very interesting. More and more now, you are seeing these clips go viral and get shared on social media where banks are refusing to let people have cash.
Wait, I don't understand. What are you talking about?
So I will either give you a bank draft, or if you're gonna get cash, I will need an invoice for the car purchase.
Why? No, I'd like to. It's for if the car's payments for in cash. I can't use a bank draft.
And this is a great example, you know, when you're buying a car and using cash, or when you're selling a car. And this really pisses me off actually, because it's one thing to go ahead and say, okay, we're getting rid of cash transactions over $10,000, but we've got no banking infrastructure to actually deal with payments of over $10,000. And that's the case in Canada. If you are paying somebody over $10,000, what are you going to use a credit card? I mean, for a start off, the business isn't going to even accept that because the amount of fees they would pay is insane. So they're going to be asking for like a draft. I mean, a banker's draft isn't even that safe as well. That's really open to fraud more so, I would say, than cash. And you can't do an electronic funds transfer or wire because that's not instant either. And the thing that annoys me is it would be so easy for Canadian financial institutions to allow instantaneous transfers from bank to bank, but they simply don't do it because there's no incentive, because it's an oligarchy type banking system. So there's no incentive to make the banking system more efficient, to bring new products to the market. And even you have the stupid government who comes out with laws like this, and they have no way of actually saying, oh yeah, well, at least you can do it this way now. You can do an instant transfer to somebody of $10,000 or $11,000 to pay for your vehicle. You're not going to pay any fees. In the UK, you can do those type of transactions very easily and they don't cost any money. You can do those transactions even in third world countries like Panama. So it's obvious that, oh, it's not just, oh, we don't have the banking infrastructure, we can't do it. It's just that the banks can't be they don't have the incentive to make the banking system more efficient. And that's what's really annoying.
You're buying from like a private?
Yeah, it's private.
person?
It's literally from my friend.
From your friend?
Yeah, but he wants it in cash.
Can he give you like anything that you're purchasing from him?
No, I don't. You don't need that. Bro, what is it? I'm only asking for 3. What is this? It's my money. I'm allowed to withdraw from my own bank account.
Yeah, so
You said that what's the maximum limit you can give a withdrawal to a customer? It's $3,000 on the day. You've already mentioned that multiple times.
Yeah, not today.
Why not today?
And again, they're preventing this guy from taking $3,000. We're not even talking about $10,000 or $20,000. And what I find absolutely hilarious about those type of situations where they're like, have you got some type of invoice or something like that? I mean, these things could be faked very easily. Like, what does that kind of matter to a certain degree? Because these documents could be faked honestly so easily that it doesn't make any sense. But it goes to more of the fact that the banks don't like you making transactions in cash, because when you make those transactions in cash, you cut out the bank charging ridiculous fees on these transactions. Guess what? If you want to do a wire or a banker's draft, they're going to charge you for that. And they enjoy doing that because they're going to charge you for it. And the other element to this, which a lot of people don't know or don't understand, is the fact that cash is actually a constraint on the bank. banks because the banks cannot print cash. The Bank of Canada is where cash comes from. So if a bank wants cash, they have to order it from the Bank of Canada, and they can't just create that money to order it on the ledger. They actually have to have those assets to back it up to get that liquidity to order the cash. So that means that the bank can't just create it, whereas if they are creating a banker's draft, yeah, they can just create that money. Banks can just create credit very easily. So that's another reason why banks want to get rid of cash, because it's a constraint on the banking system, and it's really in the bank's best interests to prevent you from withdrawing your money in a quick fashion, because if there is a crisis event or there is a bank run, then they can't go bust. And we know for a fact that Canadian banks are extremely leveraged, so we know that their risk appetite is absolutely insane. And even though the mainstream media tells you constantly that they're buffering their loan loss provisions with every earnings that go by, it's still, when you compare it to like a US bank and look at the leverage ratios, it's absolutely crazy. It's over double. So that shows you the risk appetite at Canadian banks is insane. So take away that cash, it takes away that constraint. And who other would be leading the charge on this than a bankster himself, the World Economic Forum's Mark Carney? And this is really where it comes from. And then in the future, when there are social credit scores or carbon scores or whatever you want to call them, they're obviously not going to be called that. They'll be called something else to make it palatable for people, but that will be coming, and then it makes it very easy to track everything, and it also paves the way for a central bank digital currency. And you've got to ask yourself the question, do you think a central bank digital currency is going to come when you have a bankster who got voted in? It is inevitable, just like a cashless society is inevitable.
Of payments that will soon be swept away by a digital distributed future. With the wisdom born from such sad experience, most countries have now settled on centralized public fiat money.
And that's why I would say to you, get on my email list below, because you need to prepare and you need to have banking diversification, and don't just have all your eggs in one basket in one country, because it's a global international world and you just don't need to do that anymore. Don't just be stuck in one banking system. Diversification is really key. So anyway, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed this video, check out that video I did last year about the cashless society. It's a really interesting watch considering what's happening right now. And if you're looking for a VPN and also want to help out the channel, you know where to go. Links are below. ExpressVPN is the VPN that I am using, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.